What does it really mean to grow up in a world that's already written your ending? To be raised not just as someone's kid, but as someone else's myth. From day one, Atreus wasn't just a boy. He was an idea, a weapon, a name folded into prophecy before he ever even picked up a bow. And that might be the hardest part of his story. Not that he changed, but that he was never given the space to just exist. He's not like the usual video game kid who waits on the sidelines. He steps in, he pushes back, he asks questions. And while most players are watching Kratos, the real arc, the one that shifts everything, was happening behind this kid's unsure, searching eyes. Atreus doesn't rise up to be a hero. He just tries to figure out who he is. And honestly, that's a lot harder. So this episode isn't about a sidekick. It's not about comic relief. It's not some forced coming-of-age story. This is about identity, about growing up under the weight of silence and still finding a way to speak, about choosing your own direction, even if it means stepping off the path carved in blood by the person you love most. This is Atreus, not the son of Kratos, not Loki, the trickster from old stories, but the boy who walked away before the world could decide who he had to be. There's something different about Atreus from the first time we see him. Not in some mythic sense, just in a normal human one. He's not hardened like Kratos. He hasn't been forged in fire. He stumbles, he hesitates. When he says, "I'm ready," what he really means is, "I hope I am." And that's why the beginning of this story hits harder than people give it credit for. God of War might open with a funeral and a mountain to climb, but this isn't just a father-son road trip. It's a trial by fire for both of them. Kratos teaches through silence. Atreus picks up the pieces, and in between them hangs all the stuff left unsaid. The truth about Atreus' blood, Faye's secrets, the grief neither of them knows how to carry. Their relationship isn't warm, it's tense, uneasy, sometimes even cold. But under all that distance, there's a fragile kind of loyalty. Not love the way we usually see it in games. This one's shaped by fear, miscommunication, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this journey can fix what's been broken for years. But maybe the boy isn't the one who needs fixing. Maybe Atreus, and all his softness and questions, is right to challenge a man who keeps telling him to close your heart to it. Because as the story unfolds, Atreus doesn't just learn how to fight. He starts asking why. He doesn't just learn the language of the gods, he learns how to read between the lines. While Kratos wrestles with ghosts he won't name, Atreus tries to understand the world they're walking through, even when the world pushes back hard. And like the rest of us, it does push back. There's this quiet ache in his story that a lot of people overlook. He's never told the truth about who he is, where he comes from, or what he's becoming. He's always one step behind in the game where everybody else already knows the rules. For the first part of the game, he doesn't know he's a god. He doesn't know why he gets sick when he's angry, or why his dad is so hard on him, or why everyone looks at him like a riddle they're scared to solve. He doesn't search for power or chase identity. What he's really looking for is permission to exist, to be heard, to matter. And when the truth finally lands, that he's not just a boy, but something more, it doesn't bring clarity, it brings confusion. A single name dropped like a bomb, Loki. And from that moment on, it's not just about staying alive. It's about figuring out what that name means. Because a name doesn't change the person you are, just as power doesn't change people. It shows you who they really are. Atreus was always more than just a boy with a bow. The signs were there from the start. The sickness, the way he could instinctively speak ancient languages, how animals seemed drawn to him. But none of it really mattered until the moment someone finally said the word, God. And that one word, it changed everything. For the first time in his life, Atreus felt like nothing could touch him. And that's where things started to fall apart. The arrogance he starts to show. It isn't coming from malice. It's coming from somewhere deeper. From a lifetime of being told to wait, to be quiet, to hold back. So when he's suddenly told he's divine, and not just divine, but part of something legendary, he doesn't know how to handle it. He spent his entire life being overlooked, and now the spotlight's directly on him. So, like a lot of people who felt powerless too long, he swings way too hard in the other direction. You see it in how he talks to Kratos, how he pushes back harder, louder. You see it in how he starts killing not just out of necessity, but out of pride. And the most gut wrenching moment? When he takes the life of a man who isn't even fighting back. Because he's convinced that gods shouldn't be questioned. It's hard to watch, and it's meant to be. This isn't some triumphant rise. It's a stumble. A kid falling headfirst into the worst version of himself. Not a monster, but someone starting to look a little too much like the man standing beside him. And Kratos sees it. There's this moment, quiet, brutal, where Kratos looks at Atreus, and you can see the real fear in his eyes. Not because Atreus is getting stronger, but because he's starting to walk the same path Kratos once did. A path that carved its way through blood, fire, and loss. That's the thing about prophecy, about power. Just because someone tells you who you are, doesn't mean you're ready to carry the weight. And Atreus, he wasn't ready. Not yet. Not without someone showing him how to be more than just what the myth says. That sickness he struggles with, it's not just some physical condition. It's symbolic. It's what happens when you try to carry too much too soon. When a boy is caught between being a kid and being a god, and the weight of that tension just tears something inside him. And yeah, for a while, he buckles under it. But the thing about falling apart, it forces you to decide what's worth putting back together. What makes Atreus different, what ends up saving him, isn't that he avoids becoming like Kratos. It's that he sees it happening and decides to pull back. And that change only happens because Kratos, slowly and very imperfectly, starts changing too. Kratos doesn't suddenly become open or affectionate. He's still guarded, still blunt, but something shifts. He stops barking orders and starts guiding. It's not dramatic, just little things. A glance, a nod, a rare soft good. But for a kid who's lived under the weight of that man, even that small change feels seismic. And Atreus responds to it. Not right away, definitely not perfectly, but it's enough to steady something inside him. That edge, the one that needed to prove something, starts to dull. And in its place, you see someone more thoughtful start to take shape. He doesn't just kill because he can. He starts showing restraint. He asks questions. He looks his enemies in the eye and wonders if they actually deserve to die. That's not just character growth, it's transformation. It's Atreus stepping out of the myth and becoming something more human. And Kratos sees it too. He starts giving his son some space. They fight together, not like a father and child, but as equals, side by side. And that space, that shared ground, that's where Atreus finds what he's been missing all along. Not all the power of being a god, not the approval of some prophecy, but the clarity that comes from choosing who you want to be. People often say Atreus' arc in the first game is just background for Kratos. But that's not true. It's a mirror. As Kratos learns how to become a father, Atreus learns how to become a person. And that bond they build, that balance between discipline and compassion, between fate and free will, that's what sets the stage for everything that happens next. By the time Ragnarok kicks off, the groundwork's already there. Atreus isn't a wide-eyed kid anymore, and Kratos isn't looming over him like some immovable wall. They're a team now, a real one. Not perfect, not without friction, but they trust each other more than they used to. Still, here's the thing about growing up. At some point, you stop asking for permission. And that's where Atreus is now. He starts to feel this pull. Something deeper, quieter. Not from Kratos, not even from himself really. It's from something he doesn't totally understand yet. Loki, that name, that idea. That piece of the story he didn't choose, but can't ignore anymore. And yeah, it scares him. Not because he wants to burn the world down or become some chaos god, but because he doesn't want to lose himself trying to figure out who he's supposed to be. So he starts making little choices in secret. Harmless ones at first. Talking to animals, slipping away to find answers. But then he crosses a line. He lies. He vanishes. He does the one thing Kratos has feared since the very beginning. He acts alone. But here's where the story writers get clever. This isn't rebellion, not defiance. Atreus isn't trying to break away or hurt anyone. He's just trying to find something true, searching for the part of himself that no one, not even Kratos, has ever helped him understand. The part that came from Fae, the part born of giants, the part called Loki. That's something you have to fight for. What Atreus finds on that journey isn't power. It's not some big earth-shaking truth. It's simply complexity. He doesn't step into godhood like some warrior claiming a throne. He steps into it like a kid walking barefoot into a storm. Nervous, uncertain, but knowing deep down he has to go. And in Ironwood with Angerboda, he doesn't learn how to win. He learns to see that prophecy isn't about certainty, it's about responsibility. That his future isn't locked in, but it is his to shape. He could become the destroyer the myths whisper about. He could lean into the trickster role, the chaos, the fire, and there are moments where it feels like he might. You hear it in his voice, see it in his eyes, the same heat Kratos used to carry. But then he doesn't. He chooses not to burn everything down. Instead, he listens. He asks questions. He reaches for dialogue instead of blade. He picks up restraint over domination. And that's what separates him, not just from Kratos, but from so many so-called heroes like him. Because Atreus doesn't grow by proving he's the strongest one in the room. He grows by realizing he doesn't have to be. So when he finally comes back, when he stands in front of Kratos again, he's different. Not defiant, just grounded, centered in a way he wasn't before. This isn't a god returning from a quest. It's a young man who's finally starting to understand himself. He's just Atreus. Every father dreads the day their child no longer needs them. Kratos feels that more than most, not because he's controlling, but because he knows what the world does to a boy who grows up without protection. He became what he did because no one ever stopped him. He wants more for his son, but wanting more isn't the same as giving more. And Atreus, he feels that fear coming out of his father, even if no one says it out loud. You can see it in the way he looks at Kratos before making a decision. He's not asking for permission anymore. He just wants to be understood. And when that understanding isn't there, when Kratos falls back on warnings or cold commands, Atreus starts pulling away. But this isn't some act of rebellion. It's actually heartbreak. Because the truth is, they still love each other. They never stop. They're not enemies. They're just heading in different directions. And neither of them know how to say goodbye without making it feel like a failure. So it all comes out sideways. They argue. They go quiet. They throw looks that cut deeper than any words could. There's this moment in Ragnarok where Kratos finally tries to reach him. Really tries. And Atreus just shakes his head and says, "You're not hearing me." Atreus is right. Kratos wants to protect his son from the same pain that made him. But Atreus isn't asking for protection anymore. He's asking for trust. And for Kratos, trust feels like letting go. Like risking the only thing he has left. That's the real tragedy of growing up, of being a parent, of love. You raise someone to stand on their own. And then when they finally do, it breaks your heart that they don't need you the same way anymore. So when Atreus leaves, when he makes the choice to follow the prophecy, to step into whatever future is awaiting him, it doesn't feel like a win. It's a quiet, heavy step away from the boy he used to be, and from the father who helped raise him. And Kratos? He doesn't yell, doesn't try to stop him. He just watches the door, like a man who's been gutted in silence. That stillness says everything. We don't talk enough about what it means to love someone enough to let go. About how heartbreaking it is to realize that choosing different paths doesn't mean you failed. It means you've grown. Atreus doesn't walk away because he's rejecting Kratos. He walks away because, for the first time, he believes in who he's becoming. And Kratos lets him. Because he finally sees his son for who he truly is. And that's a shift, a turning point. And that's where Ragnarok hits the hardest. In the space between two people who love each other and have to figure out how to grow apart without falling apart. At the end of Ragnarok, when the dust settles and the gods stop screaming, something surprising happens. It's quiet, because real growth doesn't come with a soundtrack. It's subtle. It's Atreus standing still for the first time because he's finally ready to listen to himself. And when he stands with Kratos there, shoulder to shoulder, it speaks louder than any battle ever could. The boy we've been following is gone. He's changed. And in his place stands someone who knows who he is. Because he chose it. And then he leaves. He parts ways with Kratos. Because now, he's not running from his past. He's walking towards something new. This isn't the story of a sidekick stepping into the spotlight. It's not about the son finally outgrowing his father's shadow. It's about a kid who was born into a world of gods and monsters and still found a way to choose peace. Who kept believing in people even when that belief hurt. Who took everything he'd learned, every mistake, every scar, every moment of love, and used it to build something better, something different. And Kratos sees that. He looks at the final shrine, the one that shows a future he never expected, a version of himself not worshipped for what he destroyed, but honored for what he protected. And in that moment you realize, the cycle is finally broken. Not with rage and not with war, but with choice, with patience, with a father who learned how to love without fear, and a son who learned to walk without hate. Atreus is the thread that holds all of it together, the bridge between what was and what could be. He doesn't leave to escape, he leaves to heal, to find the lost giants, to write a story that isn't soaked in blood, to carve a future that doesn't look like the one anyone planned for him. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real legacy of God of War. Not destruction, but transformation.